Hi guys, today I'm going to talk to you about learning a language in a maximum of 2 years like I did with Japanese. The best way to learn a language is to study abroad. There's no way better than to retain information on learning a language than actually living abroad in the country of the language you want to learn. How I learned Japanese in only 2 years would be I studied abroad in Japan for 1 year. While I was there, I actually studied and focused on the language. You can't expect to simply go to a country and absorb the language without putting any effort in. I know people who have lived in Japan for 5+ years and still don't have a firm grasp on the language. After I returned from Japan, I enrolled in university and then I took a Japanese course. When I got to university, I had to take a placement test for my Japanese. I ended up being placed in one of the higher level Japanese classes. Because I could already speak simple Japanese and I was able to understand everything that was going on in class, all that it did was solidify my grammar and conversational and writing skills. Through this, I would consider myself fluent now, only after 2 years of studying the language. Some tips I have on studying the language while abroad would be, pick up books from your local bookstore. These books that I have are Japanese and English translated with pictures and colorful illustrations that will help you figure out what things mean. They also have very good insight on culture in Japan. 2 books that my teachers gave me while I was studying there would be these books, which are essentially the same thing. They have Japanese and English translations, vocabulary words, pictures, cultural definitions, and things that are overall really helpful for learning the language. The textbook I used when I returned to the States to study Japanese would be this textbook. Now this is not a textbook for beginners, so if you're just starting to study the language, I don't suggest picking this up quite yet. A good textbook for beginners would be the Genki series. Now, this series has 2 books, an orange one and a green one. I did not have one, so I had to nick one from my professor. This is the 2nd book in the series, and it's overall useful for helping solidify your grammar and just basically learn how to speak and how to write. If you are taking a conversational Japanese class, a good textbook to use would be this. It's a listening, speaking, writing, and reading textbook. It's completely in Japanese, however, so if you are a beginner, once again, I don't suggest getting this just yet. But if you are looking to expand your knowledge on Japanese, this is a great textbook. So, if you just follow what I've done, which is study abroad for 1 year, and then come back and solidify your speaking and grammar skills, you've mastered language in only 2 years. I would consider that fluent, when you can speak without having to think much about what you're saying. People constantly ask me, didn't you study Japanese before you went to Japan? And although I did, the language never really stuck while I was here. The maximum I learned was hiragana and katakana, which are the 2 basic Japanese alphabets. Other than that, I found not being immersed in the language 24/7 made it very difficult for my brain to actually absorb the language and learn correctly how to speak and write in Japanese. Once again, you can't be lazy with learning a language. You must be proactive, even if you are living in the country. Hanging out with non-native people and people who don't speak the language that you're trying to learn is also detrimental to your language acquiring abilities. You must remember that everyone has a different pace for learning language. Do not become frustrated if you are behind on learning the language compared to your friends. Everyone absorbs languages differently and learns at their own pace. Also, some languages are harder than others. Don't give up and keep trying. If you are a speaker of a Roman language that uses the Roman alphabet, which would be English, French, Portuguese, German, and any language from Europe or South America or North America, then it might be harder for you to learn a language such as Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. Whereas if you are a native speaker of Chinese, Japanese, and Korean, you might find it difficult to learn a Roman language. That's all I have to say about learning languages. I hope you guys found this helpful, and I hope that your language learning endeavors will succeed. Besides that, look out for more videos soon. If you have a question, feel free to message me or send me a tweet. I will always answer questions, even if it's not the next day. I will always get to your question. Thanks for watching.